You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
It is time for Happy Hour. It is the Man Cave Happy Hour. Whiskey, cigars, spirits, the stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matt Fox.
And we are, half of us are in the palatial Podcast Detroit Northville studios, and the other half are in their nice, cozy, warm home in Troy, Michigan.
Yeah, I kind of am.
And it's time for Just a Taste, Matthew.
Yeah, we're doing Just a Taste tonight, and I'm so excited as to who's going to be doing Just the Taste with us tonight.
I turned the camera on, and you went, oh, get out. I don't think the studio looks pretty good. I just have very immodestly, I think our studio looks pretty good most of the time. We got a good looking little man cave studio happening here. But today, it is looking really good, and only half of that reason is the parade of bourbon on the table. The other half is our guest today, and Greta Harper from Maker's Mark. Greta.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my God. Thanks. Welcome to the Man Cave. We were chit-chatting ahead of time, and I kind of explained to her that, Matt, we don't know what we're doing.
We try to, but 9 times out of 10 we haven't the slightest. Yeah,
and the whole purpose, and I'm really, really excited. I appreciate you being here because the whole goal, our goal for Matt and I, is to learn, and then hopefully people get a kick out of some of the ridiculous crap we say, and then maybe they learn a little bit something along the way. And just the 10-15 minutes we chatted beforehand, I was like, whoa, you're gonna have to re-explain that
yeah, not a problem.
when we start rolling. I'm just I don't even know where to start. But so, Greta, what we're going to do is we're going to start with you. Greta, tell me about your childhood.
Oh, wow. We're going to go way back, way back.
Just tell me about you a little bit.
So we were talking earlier, and I started in the industry back in 1997, 98. I got a job at Hard Rock Cafe in Atlantic City, and I absolutely fell in love with the industry. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grow up. I still don't. But this is pretty good. This is a pretty good gig. I think it's the best job on the planet. But I worked my way through restaurants and bars in Atlantic City and Pittsburgh. And I got a job with Maker's Mark about 1.5 years ago.
Okay.
And the rest is history.
So you've been learning.
I've been learning. So I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
I am one of those people that is just a curious learner to the bone.
But you said 20 years. You've been in the bar business and spirits business for 20 years. It's a new venture around 2 years here with Makers. So what did you know before coming to Makers about spirits or bourbon?
Well, I thought I knew a whole lot more than I did,
yeah.
which is usual, I think. So I had been a bartender. I had done everything basically in a restaurant. I had been a GM, so costing. I had done consulting. I had done huge events in Pittsburgh, rum, rock, and reggae, cultured cocktails, things like that. And I wanted to spread my wings and see what this side of the business, this supplier side of the business was all about. So we did a 3-week intensive training at the distillery. And we actually flew out to ISC, which is Independent Stave Company in Missouri, on a little charter jet. It was so cool. I felt pretty amazing for the first time. I was like, wow, I'm in a private jet. This is not my life. But every day it was learning something different, whether it be about wood science or distillation, anything like that. It was pretty amazing.
So what is your exact position with Maker's Mark?
So I am a diplomat.
Okay.
So I'm a diplomat right now for Michigan and Missouri.
We need more diplomats in our world.
Yeah, bourbon diplomacy is needed by everyone right now.
Holy smokes! And you cover 3 states for them?
So I did cover Wisconsin. So now I just cover Michigan and Missouri.
Michigan and Missouri. Okay.
Wow.
And
that's kind of spread out from one another.
Yeah. So when I was in the interview process, I originally thought I had lived in Pittsburgh for the last 20 years, and the original territory territory was Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. And, I was like, well, maybe I don't have to leave. Maybe I can stay in Pittsburgh because it's basically equidistant between Philly and Detroit.
Yeah.
And then Jane was like, yeah, no, I'm thinking maybe Wisconsin and Missouri. And I like put my geography hat on real quick. And I don't think those states touch. And she's like, yeah, no, they don't. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So
I either drive the turnpike or I fly. That's either one or the other, right?
Yeah. So I put this year, in the past 12 months, even with what's going on in the world, I put 27,000 miles on my car. And before that, I was flying all the time. So.
I don't think you people know how maps work.
Have another drink. Yes,
please. So, but then, all right. So on the table, you rolled in this awesome case, and we started talking about the different staves and things. I don't even know where to start. I had an idea of what we might do, but you pulled out this bag of tricks that I did not even expect. And so, why don't you just kind of curate what should we taste today that's out on the table, and what do you want to teach us about?
Well, let's start with a little bit of history.
Yeah,
and then we can go through tasting.
Yeah.
So everything that we're going to taste today is cask strength.
Okay.
Unless we taste the Maker's Mark Classic, which is 90 proof. We are more than welcome to do that. Everything starts out as cask strength makers.
That's this.
Yep. This is the standard, right? Yep.
Yeah.
So everything else starts out as cask. Oh, this starts out as cask strength
That starts out. Yep.
Oh,
yep.
okay.
So all whiskey starts out as cask strength,
Right,
and then
yeah.
we proof it down
Comes out
to.
of the cask,
we do it to 90 proof. Some other places do it to 80 proof. But that is how we start. Makers was started in 1953 by Bill and Margie Samuels, and they had a craft bourbon dream back before bourbon or the Bourbon Trail was a thing, and they co-founded it together. So Bill, as the story goes, decided on the mash bill and everything inside of the bottle, and Margie basically came up with everything else.
Okay.
So she came up with the bottle shape, the name, the red wax, the label that looks hand-torn. That was all Margie. So it's pretty amazing. And she said for every $1 that you put into the bottle, I want $1 to fix up the distillery. So they painted it that dark brown and the red shutters because they wanted to make it a place where people could come and visit and drink the bourbon and see exactly what we did. And this was long before the bourbon tourism was the thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right. And so where are they today? What type of facilities are there today, and what sort of visits go on today?
So we do tours. Right now they're pretty limited because of what's going on. We also do private selections, which is the barrel program that we're going to talk about, and those are some of the samples. But it's still a family-run, small little outfit where everybody knows everybody's name, and it has a very, very specific sense of place and identity. And I was just talking to one of the other diplomats from the West Coast, and we were talking about the sounds of the distillery because it is a working distillery, and you hear these barrels rolling, so you get that thunder, and then you hear the squeaks from the actual distillery, and you can smell like the fermenters. It's beautiful, and I miss it. It's been, almost a year now since I've been there.
Hold on, I gotta do this.
So look. That's a beautiful sound. So the cask strength, and and so what do you call the flagship one here?
So that is our classic makers.
Classic makers.
Classic makers.
So the profile on this is it's mixed down to 45%, 90 proof.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the start profile on this for us?
So we started out with Bill's family, the Samuels. They own T.W. Samuels Distillery. And Bill always said that his family had a blow your ears off whiskey. He was not a fan. So he sold the distillery. And then when he was starting Makers, he came up with a new mash bill. So we do 70% corn, 16% soft red winter wheat, and 14% malted barley. So everything that we're going to try today is one mash bill. And how we go about it, everything at Makers with us is about taste and flavor and that final product. So how you determine that final product is through, the fermentation, the yeast strain, the distillation, the barrel entry proof, which is hugely important and nobody talks about, and then the wood science that goes into our private selection.
So I'm trying to taste this, and because I'm looking at the bottles and the winter red winter wheat. I love that. Soft red winter wheat, is that what you said? So soft red winter wheat.
Yep.
And there is a coloration to this that is not typical. It seems a little darker. And as you pulled out the different bottles from these different staves, I was trying to look from bottle to bottle to see if one was darker than the next. I'm not quite seeing that. They're against a black table, but it seems a little darker. Is it slightly darker than most bourbon?
It is a little bit darker. So this
Okay.
isn't proof down at all. So when you proof something down, you do add water, so it will get slightly lighter, right?
Right.
But we don't chill filter. So a lot of times when I get these samples, sent in, at the bottom of the bottle, you'll find a lot of that black char sediment.
Ooh.
And some people are a little bit freaked out about that if they're not in the know, but like whiskey hounds and hunters, they absolutely love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
See, not only do I want to drink my bourbon, I want to chew on it as well. So yeah,
I think-
that's just where I come from.
yeah, that viscosity is hugely important. You want it to stick around a while, right?
It does, and it's even in this plastic cup. It's got some nice legs on it. Just the standard one.
Yeah, and with makers, there's a couple little tricks. So if you take your tongue and curl it up and touch the top of your mouth, so touch the roof of your mouth, that's kind of like the midpoint of your tongue. So with makers, we didn't want it to be a blow your ears off whiskey, blow your ears off bourbon. So you'll never get that burn with makers past that midpoint of your palate. It's front palate. We consider it sweet, even though there's no residual sugars because of distillation.
Yeah.
But it is full mouth, front palate sweet.
It's because it's sticking around on my tongue more. Maybe because I was just rubbing my tongue around my mouth. Maybe that's why it's activated. Okay.
Oh wow.
So
Yes, I was putting my nose into my glass. I'm like, you know what? I have to pull back a little bit because I got really close really quick at first. I probably shouldn't have done that because I only needed to go about right here to nose it.
So are you a wine drinker?
I have been, yes. I've been known to
Especially
polish
this
off
year,
a bottle
right?
of wine. Yeah. But even about like 4 inches from my nose, I was already able to nose it at that point. It's got a nice, there's a really nice like a fruit sweetness to the nose itself. And then on that taste, yeah, you're absolutely right. That warmth that just lingers is really, really nice too.
Yeah, that's that nice, beautiful Kentucky hug. And I like to give a lot of cheater notes as far as like tasting and smelling and nosing. So I went through the WSET, which is the Wines and Spirits Education Trust out of the UK. So I got a certification on level 2 in wine there and level 3 in spirits, which gets super nerdy, but it's also a lot of fun. Some of the cheater notes. So you hear a lot of people and they're like, oh, I smell this or that. And I still remember 20 years ago, I was sitting in a room and I'm like, I don't smell caramel or wet leather. I smell whiskey.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. And I would look around. I'd be the only girl in the room and I'd be like, oh, it just smells like whiskey. But the more you get into it, you find those little nuances and you just get better. And what I tell people is you just have to tell people you have to practice, which they're usually happy about. But some of the cheater notes, anything that's distilled, whether we're talking about rum or agave spirits or whiskey, which is grain, and bourbon, you're going to get citrus and pepper off the distillation. So that is just basic ethanol. You're going to get citrus, and you can get as geeky as you want to get, like oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruit, and then you're going to get some pepper. You can say what color it is or whether it's fresh ground or not. And then after it's matured in a barrel, you will never be wrong if you say caramel and vanilla.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That seems to be a across the board. Even a lot of Greta, we've tasted a lot of whiskeys, a lot of bourbons. We've done the agaves as well. We did the tequila. We've done the vodka. But in all honesty, everyone has somewhat of the same process, but everyone tweaks it just a little bit and gives them that nuance that other folks are not expecting. What is it that Makers does to give them that nuance when it comes to their whiskey and bourbon?
So a lot of it is our mash bill. So we have one mash bill. We have one yeast strain. So everything is all going to be one mash bill, one yeast strain. And the way that I like to describe it, you start out with a goal in mind, right? So the Samuels, they wanted this sweet front palate whiskey. That was their goal. And you work backwards from there because when you're talking about fermentation and distillation, there's so many different levers that you can pull to create the flavor profile or the goal that you want to create. So you can distill it to a certain proof. We distill to 120 and then 130. So we have a column still and then we have a pot still, which is a doubler. We do a 3-day fermentation. Some people do, 4, 5, 6-day fermentation. So that's all going to change based, the flavor of your final product is going to change based on how you change these levers. So our yeast strain is hugely important. The 3-day fermentation, very important. The 120 proof, 130 proof distillation. And then we go into the barrel at 110. So not enough people talk about that. When you're talking about wood science, it can get really, really geeky. And not many people are like, oh, I'm going to chew on a piece of wood and that's, this is what I'm going to get. Or this is what the extractives are going to be or the subtractives. But depending on your entry proof, certain flavors or chemical compounds are soluble in water versus sugar. Water and alcohol. So the higher the water versus the alcohol, you're going to get different flavors. So at 110, that is our sweet spot. We've done experiments where we've gone into the barrel at 115 and 120 and 125, which are the rules that you have to be 125 or below to be bourbon. And it is unrecognizable as makers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very cool.
And then you said there's not an age statement on it, but these guys have been living anywhere from 5 to like 7.5. Is that what you said?
Yep. 7.5, 7 3/4. And we do, we still hand rotate all of our barrels.
Yeah. Oh.
So we are the only distillery, definitely of our size. I'm sure there's some small craft distilleries out there that might do it at this point, but we are the only distillery that I know of our size that hand rotates the barrels.
Well, so do some distilleries just let them sit and not rotate them?
Yeah. So there's you talk to different master distillers. Yeah. And there's honey holes, different places in the rack house or warehouse. They're all the same thing. Will age or mature bourbon at faster rates. So if you're up at the top of the rack house, it's going to be really, really hot in August. It gets up to about 130 degrees in Kentucky at the top levels. But that first level of the rack house is going to be 80, 90 degrees. So it ages a lot slower.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. A good friend of mine, Sean, chimed in saying, I love Maker's Mark. And I've seen him drink Maker's Mark. Yes, he loves his Maker's Mark. So thank you, Sean, for chiming in.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Are you an ambassador?
Sean? Maybe.
So we do have an ambassador program.
Yeah.
I think that's why they named us diplomats. They couldn't call us ambassadors like in other bourbon companies and groups. But the ambassador program is free. You sign up. If you are a big Makers fan, you just sign up online, and we will send you an entry email, and then you get a welcome pack. You get your name on a barrel at Makers, and then between 5 and 7 years from now, you'll get invited down to the distillery to actually dip your very own bottle.
He said he wish he was, so I'll talk to him offline to see if I can't make that a reality for him.
Just do it.
Sean, look out for a phone call, man.
I'm pretty sure I am. We have a barrel, the Man Cave Happy Hour. We got the whole little packet about that with cards that we can, get involved with it. It's in the other room. Is there like a membership card?
There is.
Okay,
yeah,
and I was looking at them in here. It's not in here. Shame on me for not having it in my wallet. But I am one of the ambassadors.
Now, did you get the Christmas present this year? Every year we send out a Christmas present.
No, I don't think so.
So this year we sent out playing cards. So everybody's kind of stuck at home.
I got pimped on the playing cards.
Yeah, I'll have to get you a set.
Unless they went to the P.O. box and I haven't checked it. Or the mail has just been a challenge.
Yeah, the mail. Yeah, USPS has been a challenge lately for sure.
All right, so we gave that a little sip. I was getting a little bit of candy in it. Not. It was like almost like hard candy, but not hard candy. It's like the sugar on the pink sugar on a swizzle stick sometimes that you do in your coffee. That sugary candy.
The confectionery sugar.
Yeah.
So that's a great note.
I was getting that a little bit there. So moving up from the standard ones to the cask strength, which is where all the private selections are birthed from. So is the cask strength always 110, or does that vary?
So that will vary. So we go into the barrel at 110, and some crazy things happen between 5 and 7.5 years.
Sure.
And so depending on the temperatures and the climate and things that are going on, whether it's really wet a couple of years, really dry a couple of years, hot, cool, it's going to range anywhere from 108 to 114. And we don't proof this down. So this comes right out of the barrel. We basically just strain it. We get the big particulates out and put it in a barrel or a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. go for it.
Yay! All right. So the big particulates are out. So you could have a little bit of a residue in these sometimes?
Every once in a while, you'll see something like that. More so in the private select than the cask, for sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm not there. Which one did you pour, Jamie?
So we just went with the cask strength. And this bottle is autographed by Rob Samuels himself.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of groovy.
Yeah, and this is what we call, this is our heavy dip. We call them slam dunks. So they are collectors. Some people collect them. Normally we do a dip that is short like this, and everything is hand dipped. And then with the cask bottles, it's every sixth bottle we do a slam dunk.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking in the store, there's a couple will be like that, and then some will be like that. And so I was just wondering if someone was saying having a Monday, but that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Somebody falling asleep on the line. Oh, crap! My whole arm. What the? How hot is that wax? Would they be going to the ER?
Oh, they would be going to the ER. So we are talking about 400 degrees.
Okay, fair play.
Yeah.
Don't drip your hand in the wax.
Yeah, this is not a
Rob
play with
says,
it wax.
We have X number of days without an incident. Don't dip your hand in the wax. All right. I'll keep an eye out for that. That's interesting. So every sixth one on the cask strength. And then, so this is just kind of that on steroids, right?
Yep. Not proved down. This is who we are. This is unrefined who we are. No makeup, no shame.
It is a stronger smell.
Mm-hmm. And this one is what, 110? I think this is 110 point.
Yeah, 110.1. It's one beta.
Yeah.
So was that more of a, when I hit your nose, Jamie, was that more like a smoky feel to it then, or as you're doing the cask strength?
It wasn't ethanol. But it was. You could tell it was stronger. I could
bigger.
tell it was stronger.
Yeah, it's bigger. It's more robust for sure. I get a different sweetness off of this, and with the cask specifically, I mean, every day is going to be different based on what you ate and your body chemistry and the weather outside. But I always get a lot of like walnut tannin off the cask.
I'm getting a lot more pepper.
There you go.
This time around.
Yeah.
With the cask strength, it's a bit more, almost a bite. You can tell it's strong. It's a higher proof, and a bit more of the pepper, and it's warm, much warmer going all the way down.
It coats your mouth a little bit more viscous. I think coats your mouth, sticks around a little bit longer.
Yeah. All right, and so from there, the private select. Mm-hmm. So there's 46, and there's private selects, and there's are those the two other variants?
So private select is an amalgamation. It's what people get to build on their own. You get to basically build your own barrel. 46 is what started it all. So when Bill and Margie retired. Bill Sr. and Margie retired, they were handing over the business to Bill Jr., who's now 80 years old. In June, he's going to be 81. He's absolutely amazing, quite a character for sure. But they gave him one rule, and the rule was don't screw up the whiskey. And those are not the words that they used either. We are pretty liberal with language at the distillery. But that was the one rule, is don't screw up the whiskey. And for years, he went out, he pounded the pavement, he made relationships with all these people in retail and bars, and shook hands and sold makers and basically distributed it all over the country. And then when he was getting ready to retire in 2010, he knew that he hadn't left a legacy, like a lasting imprint. He had just sold his father's bourbon. So he wanted to not screw up his dad's bourbon, but create his own legacy. And he came up with Maker's Mark 46. So 46 is the name of the stave that we use. So it is a French oak stave that we put into the cask strength Maker's Mark for 9 weeks after it's already been fully matured. So it's a finished bourbon. Oh, wow. And the staves we use are slightly different. When we talk about staves for barrels, those are barrel staves. They're about an inch thick and about 32 inches tall. When we talk about the finishing staves, like 46 or Cuvée or P2 or Mocha or Mondiant, which is the new one, we're talking about wafer staves. So they're about 28 inches tall and about 1/4 of an inch thick. So those just float around in the barrel. So 10 of them will float around in the barrel for 9 weeks, and it creates a completely different flavor profile.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and the individuals, like most, are these all store picks, or does private selection, does Makers put out just a general private selection, or all the private selections privately picked by stores?
Most of them are privately picked by stores or consumers, or bars and bartenders.
Right.
We do have a couple that we sell specifically at the gift shop. So they're they call it tasting panel. So at the gift shop, when you go down to the distillery, you can pick up a private select that the tasting panel at the distillery has kind of made up, and that's their favorite of what's going on then. So we have one landing in Michigan any day now over at Picnic Basket, and it was actually picked by the owner and his wife, and she picked the exact same recipe that was in a tasting panel from 2 years ago. First pick, and it is absolutely delicious, and that is going to land any day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Love it.
So, all right. So I'm looking at the private selection, and on the front, it kind of gives a little bit of description because you have a couple different variations here. One says toasted caramel pecan, and the other one says buttery flaky crust. And then there's a series of numbers with little descriptions under the numbers, and those are the staves. So you can have 5 different staves.
So we have 5 different staves at the moment, but you have to pick 10. So any grouping of 10. So you can have all 10 of one if you want, or you can have 9 and 1, or 2, 1, 2, whatever equals 10.
Right.
But it will, so even one stave difference. So with these, Lenny over at Maria's wanted to do something really different that hadn't been done before. So he picked 2 barrels at one time.
Okay.
And each of the barrels were only one stave different.
Right.
But they couldn't taste more different. So you would think that it would be really, really close.
Sure.
Because there's only one stave different, but they are completely and totally opposite.
Huh. And these sell out pretty quick when our friends over at Keiko's.
Joe is fantastic. He has another barrel coming in too.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
So it's this was their private selection that came in, and he called it the Japanese, a Japanese one, his turning Japanese bottle. And this is a different recipe than those. But the interesting thing about this, you said, is that the roasted French mocha, which has been a standard stave, is going away.
It is. We are retiring it at the end of January.
Why,
so January 31st.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, we're a little bit weird at Makers. We don't take ourselves too seriously, for sure.
Okay.
So 46 is always going to stay in the program. So that is the bedrock of our program. Mocha is actually the most popular stave. So we decided to get rid of that.
Okay, fair enough.
A lot of head scratching going on there. But we wanted to keep the program a living and breathing program.
Right.
So periodically we're going to be taking out staves and adding new staves. So Joe could technically, he's grandfathered in. He can always get that recipe if he wants it. But after January 31st, nobody else will be able to use mocha. They will have a brand new stave, which is Mondiant.
Okay. And so how does one go about picking these? Do they come to the distillery, or do you come with your little bag of tricks here?
Both.
Okay.
So
2 different ways of doing it?
Well, there's 3 now because this past year has given us some different roadblocks and hurdles.
Sure.
So one of the ways is virtually. So if I can't get to, say, a spot in Missouri in a couple weeks, I can send some virtual kits. That's our virtual way. We also have remote picks, which I do here in Michigan with I have a couple Pelican cases that I show up, and people will give me their goal, just like Bill and Margie had their goal when they made classic Makers, and we will add them together by the milliliter, 10 milliliters at a time, up until we get 10 different staves. And they create their own version of what is perfect in Makers. So each one of these staves, we call them pure samples, will accentuate and highlight or mask certain flavors in the classic Makers.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
So, all right, so the 46 is just the regular 46 that people will find on the shelves,
So
right?
the regular 46 that you will find on the shelf is going to be 94 proof. This is 110. So this is 46 at cast strength.
May I?
Sure. Everything. I mean, it's literally on the table. Everything is on the table.
I'm reaching and grabbing. So this is like a leaded 46.
Yes.
So that makes that makes it a little different.
For sure. It's going to hit differently.
Yeah. I've had a couple bottles of 46.
The 46 is delicious. It's really aromatic. I find it super perfumey. It's a gorgeous bourbon on its own, but the 46 at cask strength, which is this guy, it is in a class by itself for sure.
Okay.
I'm just going to sit here and watch vicariously through the computer.
You keep rocking your 90 proof, okay?
I'll keep rocking it. You know what?
And call me an Uber, and hopefully I make it. I don't have kids. I teach high school, but we don't have kids face to face tomorrow. They're all on the line, so they won't be like, Mr. Flanagan, you smell like booze.
Mr. Flanagan, why was class only 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Mr. Flanagan, why is your video off?
Yeah, why are all the lights in the classroom off again?
We're going to watch a movie today, guys.
Movie, they call me Mr. Blockbuster. And I can get away with it because I'm a broadcast teacher. So
there you go.
So I can. It's yeah.
It works. It does work.
Well, I'm not. Again, this is full bodied on the 46.
So
I haven't sipped it yet.
I get a ton more fruit in this. So if you want to be fancy, I like to call it marzipan every once in a while, and I get picked on for that. But I get a lot of almond. I get some cherry notes, which is huge here in Michigan. And it depends on how you use it. We call this, we have nicknames for each one of these pure samples in our program and with our team. This is the chameleon stave. So depending on how you use it with other staves, it's like kids in a sandbox, or people sitting around a fire. If like 5 people are going to be there, you're going to have this great discussion and things are going to go one way. But if you substitute one other person, things go a completely different way, and it's a different rabbit hole.
So the Maker's Mark 46 is a stave of its own.
All by itself. That's the name of the stave. Yeah.
So the 46, once it's at cask strength, you take it and you put like only 46s in a barrel with it
so
for like 9 months, you said?
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
9 weeks.
9 months. Yeah. Hey, potato, patata, 9 weeks.
So it doesn't seem like a long time, but it makes a huge, huge difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty neat because we were at Keiko's for the reveal on this one, and we did a little recording with them. And they get the staves. They get the actual staves that were in the actual barrel that they bought.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're still wet. I actually listened to the podcast last night. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was very aromatic. That was nice. All right, so what is special about the 46 stave? What type of wood is it?
So 46 is going to be French oak.
Okay, you said that.
Yep.
Right.
So this is going to be French oak. We're going to season it. So when we talk about seasoning, it's not like we dip it in lemon pepper or a specific like seasoning spice. So seasoning just means you leave the wood outside to age in the climate. So if it rains, if it snows, if it's sunny, hot, dry, wet, whatever it is, we say at least one Kentucky summer. Usually it's about a year. So a lot of bourbon companies will use wood that is 3 or 6 months seasoned.
Okay.
We do 1 full year.
All right. And are any of these ever charred themselves?
So we toast them. So how these are very different. So the P2 that we're going to get into in a moment, the P2 is the only American oak in the program. So the barrel itself is American oak. The P2 is also American oak. It's seasoned for a different amount of time, and then it's toasted. So each one of these staves, these pure samples, are toasted at a different time and temperature to unlock different flavors. So think of everything as like a bell curve. So certain flavors you'll get from French oak, certain flavors you'll get from American oak, and depending on the time and temperature that you toast them, you're going to get vastly different flavors. It's just like cooking a marshmallow over a fire. Some people, like a marshmallow is a marshmallow, right? When we talk about wood science, it's hard to wrap your brain around what different woods taste like toasted at different times and temperatures, but everybody, I think, has had a marshmallow. So some people really like it lightly toasted and just caramely brown and golden, and other people just like it black and burnt to hell, right? So each one of these staves is cooked at a different time and temperature, and it unlocks different flavors within the bourbon. So it's really cool how it does that.
That's great. Hey, just a real quick follow-up, just to let you guys know, our good friend Sean, he actually went in and he did it. So welcome, Ambassador Sean, to make it.
Welcome. That is awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, so now the other staves, the other 4 staves that are available, the mocha's going bye-bye. Now, these samples you have here, so again, you started with the cask strength, and so you took just the SP, which is
spice.
SP
is spice.
You took the spice and you took a bunch of the 10 of them,
10 of those,
and let it float for 9 weeks in that, and so that's what you have, and that's to try to give you what the profile will be of those staves. And are those all French oak as well?
So the Cuvée, which is the CU, the 46, which we just tried,
right,
the Mocha, and the Spice, those are all French oak.
Okay.
And then the P2 is American oak.
Okay.
And so when we're talking about American oak versus French oak, we're talking about different spice levels. So when you think about some more cheater notes, I guess, American oak is going to be really high in vanillin, which gives you those really, really nice vanilla flavors. I get on the P2 a ton of apple, a ton of like hay. It's just bright and light. And I always think of things as like a roller coaster ride, like the flavors in your mouth, like that should be a roller coaster ride. Sometimes it's long and complex. Sometimes it's short and sweet and to the point. The P2, which is American oak, doesn't have a long finish. It finishes really, really clean and fast. Whereas the Cuvée is going to, go for it.
No, you said, because you said the Cuvée sticks around.
This Cuvée sticks around, and it has a completely different viscosity. You get brown butter, you get citrus, you get totally different fruits from both of those. And when we're talking about French oak, and when we talk about spice, it should be noted, some people talk about spice and they think like Frank's Red Hot and Sriracha, right? Hot and spicy. But when we're talking about something that's spicy as in hot or hot sauce, that's a tactile sensation on your palate. Yeah. It's not a flavor. When we're talking about something spicy, when we're talking about bourbon, French spices, so baking spices, so clove, coriander, cardamom, those sort of things, and it's just completely different. So I like to say that because some people just have different vocabulary, and culturally things mean different things to different people.
Right.
Wow. Am I getting apple?
Is that the P2?
Yeah.
I get a ton of apple. Now, what color is the apple? Close your eyes, and what color is that apple? Is it yellow? Is it green?
It's more
is it
green,
red?
more of a green.
Green apple?
But just, or one of those natural red ones that has a little bit of green on it. Just not the red delicious,
the
but
fake
just
apple.
Like a Honey Crisp almost, Jim?
Yeah.
That's really, really good. Now,
but not Granny, not the Granny Smith, but the Honey Crisp.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, is it?
That's the smell I was getting.
When you're smelling it and when you taste it, is it the peel of the apple or the flesh of the apple or the pips and the seeds, or is it the apple blossom? So that will help you really deep dive into expanding your palate and your vocabulary.
So help me understand, Greta. You've been in the industry for 20 years, and you've been doing this for a long time. How did you develop your own palate to where it is today? What did you do special? Anything?
I've been drinking a lot for a long time. When I realized, I worked in high volume bars for a long time, and it was turn and burn and fast as you can, and neighborhood bars where, you know everybody that's going to come in on a Tuesday night, everybody that's going to come in and sit down for a football game, and you have these conversations. When I started getting a little bit older and realized, hey, there's a lot more out there, back in right around 2010 in Pittsburgh, that's when the craft movement hit Pittsburgh. And I was like, I better start learning this. So I started working at higher end bars with more craft credentials. And I would ask questions. And these bartenders that knew more than me at the time, I would say, hey, where did you, teach me everything you know? And they're like, go read a book. I was like, well, that's I get it. I totally understand that. But it's not the best advice to give somebody. So I always said, if I had the chance, and if I learned something, I would just share it. So that has been how I go about everything. So then I started getting into more craft. I got involved with the USBG in Pittsburgh. I traveled all over the country. I traveled down to Jamaica. I did a bunch of really, really cool things with the USBG. And then I got involved with the WSET. So my friend Rob McCaughey is the North American. He's in charge of North America WSET. And he was like, hey, are you interested in taking this level 3? Come out to Boston. And that's when I started getting really, really geeky. And now with Makers, I've learned even more.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. It's always nice to kind of learn, how where your expertise lies and how you came to be where you are today, because what you do on a daily basis really does change the perception of this industry itself. You're there to help represent a program to help people make it their own, with the private select, right?
Yeah. And I mean, bourbon isn't pretentious. I think that especially as a bartender and going through that peaks and valleys of that craft renaissance that we all did, we started to get a little pretentious there for a while. Like, oh, I can do this, or I want to tell everybody everything that I absolutely know about the tinctures and the mixtures and all those things. And a lot of people that have gotten into bartending and restaurants, hotels, things like that, they're misfits. And that's kind of at the core of all who we all are, right?
I want to be a dentist.
Isn't that from Rudolph?
Yeah. The Island of Misfit Toys.
I love it. Absolutely love it. But I was always kind of a misfit and just thought about things differently. I went to school for anthropology, and people were like, what are you going to do with that degree? And obviously I teach about whiskey and sell whiskey. So it actually works out, though. It's a really, really interesting industry. And I could be wrong here, but I believe that the beverage alcohol is the fourth largest industry in the world. So when you start talking about beverage alcohol, you're talking about suppliers, you're talking about distributors, you're talking about glass makers, farmers, distillers, and then you're talking about hotels, restaurants, and bars. So it is a huge, huge industry.
Yeah, our friends, the Kentucky Bourbon Boys, they do those curated tours. You know, it's there's a lot of things that hinge on it. Just everywhere, not just in Kentucky, but just all over.
You said the fourth largest industry, Greta. Well, after this COVIDian timeline that we're all living in right now,
It might be
bumping up to 2 or 3. Yeah,
number one. I'm coining that phrase, COVIDian timeline. I swear I will.
It sounds like it's, Jurassic or Cretaceous or something like that.
Yeah.
So we might be entering into a new timeline for sure.
So that American Pure, that baked American Pure, that stave taste, it kind of went to the middle of my mouth and then went sideways.
Yeah, and just flattens out.
It just went, but it filled. It went sideways, but it filled my mouth. And the taste, the apple is there, but it doesn't taste like apple. It tastes like the smell of cut apple.
Okay.
And the texture, it tastes like the texture. I don't know if
like
that
a really
makes
crisp, fresh
Yes.
apple. Okay.
So that's what I was getting.
Yeah.
So that's
No, that's fantastic.
That's beautiful.
And that's exactly how you should be looking at your tasting notes. Like as much descriptive notes as you can give, because once you give that to somebody, they'll start visualizing it in their head and it becomes easier for them as well.
And so that is just one stave. That's kind of the profile. But when you start jumbling them together, you like you said, some things will cover things up and bring other things out. And
Yeah, you never exactly know. So doing this for a year and a half, almost 2 years now, I have a decent idea of how they play well together and how they don't, or what somebody means when they say a certain thing. But daily, I'm surprised by how things work together.
all right, so I'm sure somebody mathed it out. But 10 staves, 5 different categories. How many different variations could there be? I mean, there's
1,001.
It is 1,001?
Yep.
It is exactly 1,001.
Yep.
All right, fair enough. So there's exactly 1,001 variations. Have they all been run through the ringer? They haven't. Do you guys track?
We do. So I have a little spreadsheet at my house, and when I put things in there, I get a distillery spreadsheet. It comes back to me. I get to see. You don't want somebody in one city saying, "Hey, I want this," and then in the next city over, you're like, "Hey, it's the same thing." People basically get to build their own barrel, but we get to see like what trends this way and what trends towards summer and winter, or where in the country. And what we found, Mocha is the most popular stave by far.
Sure.
But the other staves are used pretty much throughout the entire year, and it's just like peaks and valleys. It's pretty interesting.
All right, so we got the Mocha to do, and then we got the spice to do, and I got the other one, the CU, which is the French one.
French cuvee.
Cuvée.
It's
the French
a fancy
cuvée.
name for blend.
So the French cuvée. So is there one? Because just taste wise, it's like, oh, that's a lot stronger. Save that for the end. I was going to go with the Mocha next.
So if we go with the Mocha, let's try 2 side by side. So the best way to train your palate and to really see how things are different or the same is to taste things side by side. So let's do the Mocha and the new Mondiant side by side.
Right. Because the Mocha is getting retired.
Yep.
But there's still those staves there, and people who had a previous recipe that we want that again. If they've been grandfathered in, they could get it again.
Absolutely, same exact recipe.
All right, so it's more than 1,001 now. Then
now it will
we're
be a
ramping
new
up.
1,001.
Yeah, a new 1,001, and then people that are grandfathered, there's another variation. But you said they all haven't been done.
Correct.
And now with the new stave, When does this new stave go active?
February 1st. So this will be brand new. So we did the first pick with a great and fantastic bourbon club in Michigan. So Michigan actually has one pick already in. And the combination is a secret. So they don't want to talk about it until they unveil it.
Oh, will it be on the bottle when they get it?
It'll be on the front of the bottle.
Where is it? Is it Grand Rapids? Grand Rapids got a big program, and so does the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah, Metro Detroit East Side has a great program, and I love working with all the store owners on the East Side. They're absolutely fantastic.
We love. Is it? There's Tony, or there's the Harper does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so Harper Liquorland is getting half a barrel, I believe, coming up very shortly. Tony over at Wine Garden is absolutely fantastic. He just picked a barrel that should.
So
be
who's
landing.
getting the first one?
So the first one is actually going to Beverage Warehouse.
Warehouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they work really well.
That's
with
the one
this
at
bourbon
13
group.
and 13
in
and
Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Garfield or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very unassuming place, but you go in there, they got just crap tons of stuff.
Yes.
All right, but we're going side by side. So we're pulling the mocha, and then I'm pulling the new stave
Which is
we're gonna
Mondial.
Mocha. So you're gonna confuse. He's gonna have a mocha.
I'm just watching the bourbon.
I know,
across
Matt.
the
You
table
picked this.
Just for lack of a better term, I'm just salivating over here. Don't mind me.
All right. So the Mondial.
So with mocha, so when we go through a tasting, when we do this, whether it's remote or at the distillery, so those are I think we got squirreled and went sideways on that conversation. But so those are the other two ways to pick. So we can do something remotely where I bring out all my fun things, or we can do it at the distillery. So when we go through this, I'd like to explain like what these do to the final product. The mocha is. Everybody thinks of it as chocolate. I personally think it is the most popular because it's mocha and people attach it in their brain to chocolate, right? It's not a milk chocolate. It is a dry baker's cocoa. I don't know about you guys, but I still remember the day that I was in my grandmother's kitchen and the Hershey's cocoa was out. And I was like, look at that. I'm just going to take a whole spoonful and I'm going to put it in my mouth. And it was the worst decision of my very, very young life to that point. So,
but now you know that taste.
Now I know that taste, and that is to me, that is mocha. So it's espresso, it's cigar box tobacco, and like a dry baker's cocoa. When you add it to a build or a barrel selection, it really gives you a nice tannic backbone.
Okay,
it dries it out just a little bit.
It's funny you say tannic because when I smelled it,
tannic, yeah.
I was like, this smells. It's. I almost get a wine. Mm-hmm. It's almost for a wine for me. And when I smelled the new Mendiant, the new Mendiant, almost a champagne.
Yeah, completely different.
So I got a wine feel out of the mocha, and the new one a bit more in a champagne, a brighter. Smell to it. I haven't sipped them yet. So which one should I sip first?
Try the mocha first.
All right. Out with the old, in with the new.
Yep.
Better out than in, I always say.
Well, then cheers.
Yeah, cheers, man.
I'll enjoy my 90 proof.
Yeah.
Wish you were here, Matt.
Hey. Yeah, thank you, Greta. But you know what? Stick with the classics sometimes.
Wow. Okay. There's something like running up the roof of my mouth on the mocha.
It's kind of austere, a little bit austere.
Yeah. I don't know what's running up the roof of my mouth. Yeah, something running up the roof of my mouth, and then in the back and the sides is the chocolatey.
This almost didn't make the program. So Bill Jr. Is very particular, and he was always about front palate sweet. Mocha doesn't start out in the front palate at all. It starts out in the back of your palate and kind of comes forward
there you are.
And gives you like a mouth watering. At the same time that it is astringent and drying because of that tannic structure.
Maybe that's that tannic drying thing was what's creeping over my mouth. It was not a bubbly, but it was there was a path.
Yeah, you
across.
breathe in and it just dries everything right out.
That's what it was. It was drying out. Okay, so that was what it was drying out.
Huh.
Oh, wow. All right, so now I'm going to the Mendiant. Yeah. It's,
So we
As
asked,
an English
dear
major.
members of the French population,
well,
we deeply apologize.
we all were
So-
questioning naming this because I mean we are the most easygoing, relaxed. Like it's such a great team that I work with, and they were like, "It's going to be named Mondiant," and all of us kind of scratched our head and we're like, "What is going on?"
But y'all spelling it with an E. What the hell you doing to me?
So
Is that Mondi Ant or Mondiant?
Oh, we
That's
knew.
an M-E. That's mendant. I don't know what you people talking about.
These are the exact conversations that are going to happen, by the way. And I think some of them have already been had. But
Who that? Oh, that's Mondiant.
Yeah, that's it.
whose is it?
Dear southern portion of the United States, we deeply apologize for. All right, fair play. All right,
But it is a chocolate, like a Cadbury fruit and nut bar, right? So we would think of it as a Cadbury fruit and nut bar. More milk chocolate, not so much dry baker's cocoa. Hits your mouth totally different. It's juicier, it's fruitier for sure. Has a completely different nose, completely different viscosity. And when we're talking about these in like together, when they play in the sandbox or the barrel together, the mocha, if you really, really love it, you have to use a lot of it. With a Mondiant, it's a lot more assertive. Like it will take over, even if you use like 2 or 3 of it.
okay.
All right, so Greta, we've done a number of tastings, we've had a number of shows, and we're creeping up onto 100 here pretty quickly. But I believe you're the first person to ever use the word juicy as a description for any type of a whiskey or a bourbon.
Really? I don't know if I'm happy about that or sad about that. And I don't know the reason if I'm happy or sad about that.
Because we're always looking for, we're learning. We're always
Juicy
looking
fruit
to
has
learn
come
in
up.
Man Cave.
But I don't know if it just
juicy. The word
juice,
juicy has never come
solo,
up before.
yeah.
So yes, it's a good thing because we're always looking for ways to describe what we're tasting. And thank you for supplying another variation. Juicy.
Yeah, I mean, when it hits your mouth and you salivate, like that's how I look at wine and how I train people who are just entry level to wine. So is it really juicy? Is it acidic? Does it have that mouth watering characteristic that you just bit into something? Yeah. And when we're talking about fruit, like is it unripe? Is it ripe? Is it overripe? Is it just perfectly like right off the tree, juicy, ripe, and delicious?
Right. I always tend to go towards, on the wine side, I'm always going towards a Beaujolais or something to that effect. So I was there and I was tasting what you're tasting right now. I would probably say this is very reminiscent of a Beaujolais. Almost,
yeah, you're very
right?
bougie, Matt. That's true.
Using spring water for my coffee. Thank you so much.
Double distilled spring water. Oh no, water does make a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Oh yeah. We're not talking about water. Forget that. Water of life is what we're after. Right? Isn't that what whiskey is? Water of life. Yeah. Is that what the meaning behind whiskey? Isn't it water of life or something like that?
I will say it wrong. So I'm Western Pennsylvania German, so I'll just butcher it, but it's like Uskabitha, which is water of life. So whiskey was created in Ireland. So most people say. And you're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. You are welcome.
Me and my people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greta, you and I need to have a sidebar about living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. After we're done here tonight, I need to ask you a few questions about that.
My family came in through Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
My grandfather and grandmother from Poland to Pennsylvania. My grandfather worked coal mines for years and years. Died from black lung. He worked coal mines and then retired from that. And then right after his 40. In the late 40s, mid 40s, after the war, moved up from Pennsylvania for the jobs.
In the mills up here.
Polish guy, Hamtramck, ended up in Hamtramck. Wrap your head around that. That's the Polish side.
Totally.
How'd that happen? Polish guy ended up in Hamtramck in the 40s. Who knew?
You went from kielbasa to pierogies like that. I'm just saying.
That's,
it's a
pretty
quick
much.
transition.
Yeah, big stretch. All right, so we have the spice, and then the other French thing you keep making me say.
Cuvée. Listen,
Duvet is it the thing on your bed, right? The
duvet?
Duvet. What is that thing there? My wife's always yelling at me, "Hey, you're messing up the duvets over there." What? I'm like, what? It's a bird. All right.
If you can master Mondial, you can master Cuvée.
Cuvée. All right. So the spice or the Cuvée, because you said the Cuvée sticks around, but the spice you said has a kick to it.
The spice does have a kick to it. So we were talking about spice and heat and proof, right?
Yeah.
So spice does this really, really cool thing. So many of these do really cool things. If you let your P2 oxidize, it smells completely different. It smells like a vanilla bomb. But with spice, it actually makes the proof seem higher. So the proof on this spice is 112.
Okay.
But it's going to seem way spicier than it is, way hotter than it is because of the spices. So when we're talking about toasting and roasting wood, the mocha and the 46 have a completely different spice level than the spice. So the spice reminds me, have you guys ever toasted fresh spices like in a pan over open heat or open flame? It's like really in your face, really aromatic, but you get that sense of exactly what it is. This is absolutely fantastic, but it is the most, people love it or they hate it. That's what we found with
Okay.
spice.
So the raw one.
Yeah.
So, but when you're building, it is one of. Do you feel it's a necessary building block? Do people ever build one of these and skip a stave? Can they skip a stave?
Yeah. So you can use just one stave. So you can use 10 of one stave. If you wanted to use like 10 mocha, you could use 10.
So
mocha.
and that would pretty much be the mocha that you have there.
Yep.
All right.
But what I found is people shy away from spice,
Right.
Unless they are cocktail bartenders or they really, really like high proof and rye, because it mimics that.
I was gonna. Our friend Tara should be here. She's a wonderful
absolutely.
bartender.
There's nothing stopping us from doing this again and
So,
then having Tara come in.
And you?
And have Matt
and me. Yeah, thank you, Greta. Appreciate that.
All right, so opening up the spice, and pretty much every time I open these up, the ghost of the spirit jumped out and talked to me each time.
They definitely have their own personality.
They do.
Yeah, right.
All right, so a little bit of the spice, and then you have
Greta,
those two mixes that we were going to try side by side.
I show up with all the fun.
I've been pouring really light too, because I've been like,
very responsible.
I want to try to get. I don't want to destroy my palate, and I don't want to destroy me before I get to those two. But I just investigated.
That was Greta. You said he was being very responsible. That's a real compliment because he's got some heavy fucking pours. Just
I have been. I've been trying to play it off here. Because I mean, there's so much trouble to get into.
I mean, responsible around me is I don't know if it's truly responsible. So it's just different levels of responsibility, I guess. But
so what's coming on down, Greta? What's coming on down the line as we move through this timeline that we're in? What is Makers? We already learned about the unreleasing the mocha, but and bringing in a new one. But what else is Makers doing to set itself apart from everybody else? What's on the horizon for Makers?
So I think at the core of any really, really good innovation program, right? Like if you're going to look forward and look at taste and flavor, which is what we're about, you look inside of your DNA to try to really figure out what you're about. So Jane Bowie is the head of innovation for Maker's Mark, and she does a fantastic job, her and Beth Buckner, of figuring out what's next. So 2 years ago, we did RC6. Ever since Margie named the original Maker's Mark, we have been shit at naming whiskey. So 46, everybody's confused. They're like, is it aged 46 months? Is it aged 46 years? What is it? And then we came out with the first wood finishing series, which was RC6. And people were like, these are not the droids you're looking for. It's just like, how do you explain this? So they're names of the staves, right? And RC6 came out 2 years ago in the fall, the very first wood finishing series. And we wanted to highlight the yeast strain. So to do that with wood, it's not something you normally do with wood. So we had to mute some of the other flavors. And that's what we worked with. So it's all about the seasoning of the wood and the toasting of the wood. And it amplifies and mutes different parts of what you're tasting. Still the same DNA, but it amplifies or mutes certain things. So this past year, we came out with SE4PR5. Again, terrible name. I just like to call them wood finishing series like 2020, 2021. Let's go there. So the very next one, so this next year, or now, I guess, we're going to have 2 releases. So we're going to have one in February, March timeframe-ish that is FAE01. And then in the fall, September, October timeframe, we're going to have FAE02. So it is a completely different stave, 10 staves again, but one side of the stave is raw in FAE01. So it's not toasted wood. It is raw wood, completely different, something that we haven't done before, and that is all I can tell you
You're
about
just trying to get me in trouble.
Raw wood. And up until that moment, he had been responsible.
I'm 12 years old.
We're all 12-year-olds. All of
You
us.
don't send something, I can spike it right back over the net. Okay. So the spice, right? It smells not super spicy, but it smells like spice. And not any particular spice. And again, listening to other people is all. It tastes like allspice, and I know allspice is a spice. So I'm gonna guess maybe that's what I'm smelling. It's what I'm smelling. And now when I tasted it, it was it stayed way up front. It was way up front. It was actually on the inside of my lips
For a long
and
time.
my tongue. Yeah, it
Just
stayed like
hangs out
way
forever.
way up front for me.
Yeah, it's like the Sandlot forever.
And and I'm not saying it was peppery. And pepper would be maybe white pepper, not pepper,
There it
but like
is.
a white, like more like a white pepper, spicy. But when I think spice, I'm down at Social Meal goes at I'm talking spice. I'm talking the blow your face off hot. And I'm that's spice to me. So, but this is a nice spice, not burny. No, it's not. It's not burny, but it hung out on my tip of my tongue there, and on the insides
Got
of my
that nice
lips.
tingle.
Yeah.
You get that like clove tingle, and then like the mace and the nutmeg.
The
See,
warmth stuck
maybe
around for a
nutmeg,
while.
but and again, because we said that I was listening to a couple of guys. There's the guy who does the whiskey cask, and then there's the other cat who was escaping my crap. He's like the dude with the glasses.
There's a lot of dudes.
Yeah. Anyway, but he talks about the how because he does all these pencil shaving, saddle leather, this fruit, that fruit, this. He goes, go to the grocery store. He goes,
Pick things up. I mean, not now. You'll probably get arrested. But yeah, that's
stuff.
great advice.
And so you have a frame of reference.
Yeah.
And so that was his advice. That was probably a year and a half ago. Now they'll bring you up on charges for that crap. But,
Or you know what? Go to a greenhouse, especially now. So I am huge into gardening.
Yeah.
I love just picking things up and playing in the dirt. It's my happy place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this past year, and again, I learn new things all the time. I was out in my garden, and I have a pretty decent sized herb garden, and I had gone to Hessel's. And they had 5 or 6 different varietals of marjoram, which you think marjoram is marjoram, right? So I got these 5 different varietals, and I played with them, and I used them to cook with. And I picked one the one day, and every once in a while, with one of the variants of makers, I will get, I don't want to say pine, and I don't want to say resin, because then you start thinking of, IPAs, and you start thinking of gin, and you start thinking of it's not exactly the right word.
Right.
So I picked this marjoram, and I smelled it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I smelled in that bourbon. And it helps you redefine what you're smelling and tasting.
right. And Matt and I have been trying that. So we would just walk around sniffing things. Generally.
I could volley that right over the net.
I know.
There's the reason why I'm at home, not by choice.
Just getting that frame of reference is good. So I poured the cuvee and it'll be sending me towards the duvet. It'll be nappy time soon after all these.
Hopefully
Am
you
I
eat some
calling
dinner.
you an Uber now, Jamie?
Yep. Get them.
You
get 'em
both
out,
need an Uber now.
Get
Is
them
that
out there
what-
waiting for me.
So what's really cool about the cuvee, so cuvee is just fancy for blend. This stave is actually cut in it looks like a ruffle potato chip. So it's cut in ridges.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what it does, it gives 22% more surface area
Yeah.
to the actual stave.
Yeah.
We consider it the alpha stave. So if you just use one or two of it in the program, it is the alpha stave. It kind of takes over. It definitely lets you know it's there. But this goes through the way that it's cooked. The top of those ridges are cooked a lot darker than the valleys. So it's like, when you're toasting your bread or your toast in the morning, the tops are toasted dark and the valleys are toasted really, really light. They're like golden brown. So that gives it a really, really nice viscosity. It's
Nice.
fantastic. And this seems to be a favorite of a lot of people as well. I would say this is like the second most favorite of people when I take them to the distillery or we do a tasting.
So I'm looking at these 3 bottles because we have 3 different private selections here. You got the 2 side by side, and I'm seeing this one from Keiko's has 3 of the French staves, three of the cuvées in it, and that has 2, and then that has 1. So that's interesting. So it's what you said. It really is dominant when you put it in there.
Yeah, and
So this is probably really dominant with 3 of them in there.
in each of them, and this also has 3 of the P2. So the way that they work together is also really, really fantastic. So
Right.
this is one stave apart. Each of these 3 bottles has used all 5 staves.
Right.
So sometimes we see that, you'll see a 0 there. They don't use any of a certain stave. But all 3 of these have used all 5 staves in slightly different numbers.
Yeah.
So you can see what the staves do. It's really cool.
I'm
That's
dying to dive into those and see the mix. But all right, I haven't tasted the cuvée yet.
What are you
Trying
waiting
to
for?
smell it.
This is one,
Yeah, not florally, but there's flower,
like an orange blossom.
some sort of blossom.
Yeah,
some sort of blossom. Yeah, it's flower, not like a flower, but like a blossom. All right. I'm easily pencil shavings.
Greta-
Yes, I'm the power of suggestion.
And that's the thing. Yeah, I could say something. Hey, you know what? It smells like a cherry, and Jamie will say, "You know what? Yes, cherry. I get it." He's very susceptible to.
But I was there already with
ideas.
flower. She just helped me define it. She just helped me define
I
it
think
from a
most
flower to a
humans-
blossom.
From an anthropological standpoint and behavioral science, most humans are
This is
pretty
where your-
susceptible.
Where your degree comes in. This is where your degree comes in, right?
Yes.
From
Yeah,
an
and people are
anthropological
like,
standpoint.
what are you going to do with anthropology? Well, I'm going to talk about grains and tasting and sugar and all
There's
of those
some
things.
great because the bourbon thing. America's a young country and everything, and the bourbon. But we've gone through some phases in the Prohibition, and things closed down and got covered over and used for pastures, and now things are coming back. And there is actually archaeology.
I was just going to say
and
there's
things-
bourbon archaeology out there. People
There's some
are
brilliant
uncovering-
stuff
Yeah.
happening down there. So while I dig into this, you dig into this question from Sean on the screen here. Greta, if you could pick one of the 4 types of Maker's Mark, which would you pick and why?
So we're talking about the variants for the barrel program, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I would imagine yes.
So
See, brand new ambassador.
that makes me so happy. It warms the little place where my heart should be at like 2 or 3 sizes. It's fantastic. So
You so belong with us.
I'm a miscreant, so I don't know what that says about you guys. But
Yes.
yes, here, present, and accounted for. So I get this question a lot, like, what's your favorite bourbon? What's your favorite spirit? What's your favorite variant? It really depends on the day I'm having. So I have good day whiskeys and bad day whiskeys, right? So there's really no whiskey or spirit out there that kind of fits every single bill. And I think that classic makers would be the closest to that. Like, it doesn't matter if you're sitting in a dive bar or a neighborhood bar and you're having a beer and a shot and you're watching the miscreants around you and just like having the sound of the jukebox roll over you. That's a beautiful feeling. Or if you're sitting in like a really high-end steakhouse or a craft cocktail bar, and again, you have makers, it's that a similar experience. You know the quality that you're going to get. But my favorite with the variants would be the spice. So I love high proof. I worked in a rum bar. I ran a rum bar for quite a while.
So the spice usually comes in at a higher proof?
Yeah. Well, the spice, it tastes like it's a higher proof.
Fair play.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love the spice because it just hits, and it's so interesting because as you let it sit, as you let it oxidize, and depending on how you use it with the other staves in the program, it does things that's really, really unexpected. So you never really know what you're going to get. Could be that, good time bourbon, could be something a little bit off the wall.
Sure.
That is my favorite. And then my next favorite, it's changed and evolved over time. When I first started with the program and with the team, I absolutely loved the cuvee. Like it was just beautiful. The viscosity was gorgeous. And now I'm kind of going towards the P2 as my second favorite because the P2, while it finishes really clean and crisp and it's bright and hot, it changes as it sits in your glass. So it turns from really bright and hot and fruity to like this really, really mellow vanilla bomb.
I got the cuvee figured out.
Yeah.
Caramel apple. It's like I'm getting caramel, but it's like not just caramel, but it's the caramel on
the apple.
Apple, because it's that thick layer of caramel. And so I'm getting a layer of caramel with a little bit of fruit into it and infusing with it. That's what I'm getting out of the cuvee.
Do you get so when you bite into like a caramel apple, you think about like the textures that are going on. So you get that a little bit of oiliness from the butter and the caramel if it's like really, really good caramel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just rich.
Well done.
And that's what I was getting out of the cuvee. So,
perfect.
and so those are the raw materials. My God. And it's like, normally we don't go this long. We try
Jamie,
I'm having fun.
Go through. I don't know what you're waiting for.
I don't know. It's probably not
So much
fun
work
for
to do.
anybody watching it, but it's fun as fuck for me. So you can tell we're over an hour in. I start dropping the F-bomb.
I feel like we've only been here for like 10 or 15 minutes. That's what's really
Yeah.
cool about my job as well. This is fun. Like it's not a job. It's just fun.
So I love that. So when you do a barrel pick with somebody, because store owners like Tony and Joe, and the guys at Harper and the Red Wagon and the other
Sammy and-
Beverage
yep.
Warehouse, these cats, some with an F, Foddy, he's like something like that cat.
But over at
South This-a-ways.
yeah, he's over here in Commerce.
Yeah.
Benstein.
Yeah,
That's coming in.
So
he has a barrel coming in.
Those guys, I mean, you don't have to sit and go through these tastes with
yeah.
them. They've tasted. They kind of know, right?
No.
Oh, you do go through each of the tastes with them when you do this?
Yeah, so it's usually like a 3-hour process. It's not
Sure. To pick a barrel. To
Yeah,
pick
so
this.
with normal barrels, you get 3 samples, and they say, "Hey, pick A, B, or C."
Yep.
And do your thing.
Right.
And with this, people come in and they're like, okay, I have a half an hour. And I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing today. This is what we're doing today. So basically, everything that I've done with you today is going through a pick and figuring out, what you like. Did you like the nose on this one? Did you like the palate? Did you like the finish? How do you want to put it together? And who do you want to sell it to? Right?
Yeah. And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Because just a barrel, I don't know if you can get into the number, but if you can't, it's like, we can't really talk about it. But, because you can't do that anymore. There was a day where it's like, if Matt and I, because we're independently wealthy, I'm a high school teacher, he's a bank teller, we could just go down to Kentucky and buy a barrel.
Yeah, just
I mean,
shell out some money.
that actually used to be a reality. If you had the cash, you can't do that anymore. There's regulations and things, and you can't just walk in and
Three-tier
buy
system, yeah.
So but there was a day back in the day. Now what's the problem? You're fighting in a basement. That's the problem. Anyway, I don't know.
I'm a
channeling
bank teller
Brad
now,
Pitt.
so
I just demoted you a little bit. I apologize.
a little bit.
But no. So
I'll make sure you get samples to make up for it.
you can't just go down about. But if someone were to go and buy one, what's the cost on a barrel?
So we don't determine costs.
Okay, fair play.
We
and
can't.
that's the states and all that shenanigans.
So we can't fixing costs. That would be illegal. So it depends on the state minimum, things like that. And each state is different. This is one of the higher price barrels for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because
But this also gives you 240 bottles. Whereas, so if you're
guaranteed,
so like Joe was talking about
the Angel Share,
and his barrel of Four Roses, and I absolutely love Four Roses, and I miss Al tremendously.
Yeah,
but he only got 56 bottles.
Right.
Yeah.
With this, so we are taking a fully matured Maker's Mark barrel at cast strength. We dump it into a cistern. And we take the head off the barrel. So the top 2 rings on the barrel, we take those off. We take the head out. We put the 10 staves inside. And then we refill it. There's like this high-powered whiskey hose. It's absolutely fantastic. You guys would love it. Right? It's like the best water fountain on the planet. And we refill it back up. And for 9 weeks, it sits in cool temperatures.
Right.
So under 55 degrees. And you're not losing that Angel Share. So you get 240 bottles-ish.
Yeah.
Give or take, 6 bottles.
But I mean, like you said, 60 bottles, 70 bottles. I mean, you can really lose a lot when you just a barrel picks. Because I've like, why the hell is it so expensive? I've been in a store and they're like, well, we only got X number. We paid for it, and we only got so many bottles out of it. And you're like, oh, okay, well, okay, $175. I get it. It's like. A pass.
And it depends on where it was in the warehouse.
Right.
Back when I was on the other side of things, when I was a GM, we had picked a couple different Knob Creek barrels, and each one of the barrels had a different yield to them. And, that was confusing to me at the beginning. And then once it was explained, like, oh, this one was a 10-year or 12-year, and this one was, higher up in X warehouse. Totally makes a difference.
So you're like a mad scientist too. In your bag of tricks here, you got like vials and beakers and measuring and eyedroppers and so you have these. So you're going to pull as you're sitting here with the person who's picking the barrel, either the bar, the bartender, or retail outlet, and you're going to create a mix in a vial there, and you're okay. So this is the 22312, or it's the 21322. Whatever the combination is, one of the 1,000, whatever one of the 1,001 combinations of Dalmatians it might possibly be.
As long as it equals 10,
yes.
You're okay.
Yeah, it has to equal 10, and there's no like halfies. Like you can't say, I want like 6.5 mocha. It has to be a full one. So like technologically, Kentucky is in a certain place, and people have a certain perception. But we have wooden poker chips, and I always say that we are super technologically savvy in Kentucky. So we consider each stave as a poker chip, and we lay it out on a little board. And then we go through the first iteration. We're like, okay, what do you think you want?
All right.
And they'll say, and sometimes I lead a little bit more. Sometimes I hang back because they know more so what they want. And that first iteration might not be what they want. And then I'll go in and say, okay, if you could change it and fix it, what would you add, subtract? Do you want a bigger nose? Do you want a smaller palate? Do you want a longer finish? And then we evolve that barrel in different iterations of that pick. So you might have 6 or 7 different iterations.
Yeah.
And you're sitting around and, I get to be Mr. Wizard or Dave Nye the Science Guy for a minute.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Right. So you're doing that, the measured vials, and then you pour it out and just, okay, here we mixed it up, and here's pretty darn close what it's going to be.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
But everybody's taste profile is so subjective. So when you're going through that process, you really have to understand what they're looking for.
And that's where the diplomacy comes in, because a lot of times we have some big personalities, and one person is way over here and another person is way over here. And, and you have to figure out what people are actually saying. So a lot of times the language that we use isn't, we say something that we don't exactly mean, and we think other people know exactly what we mean. And I think that lies a problem with communication. So I have to kind of decode that.
Right. So with your beakers and your droppers, do you bring a couch along to psychologically file everybody at the same time?
All right.
Sometimes.
Hit me, Mick. Hit me. Let's try these two blends. So we got what store picked these? What store did this come out of?
So Maria's did these, and
Maria's. I haven't been to Maria's. Matt, that's a place we got to go and visit because I've heard like really good things about them. Because we got our good friends. I mean, like Tony.
Tony's absolutely amazing.
I love him.
Yep.
I want to do. We should do the next one that we do in Tony's bunker. Have you been in his bunker?
It's fantastic. Did you see the picture of Darsh, which every bourbon turns out is pee? It's I love it.
Yes.
I love it so much.
So the next one we do, because we recorded a few shows in the bunker. The next one we do, think of what could we do in the bunker? What would be fun for me, you, Tony, and Matthew to sit around and do? So ponder it, and
drink.
we'll get So we'll sit around
we can bring Tara into it as well.
Maybe we could
bring
a
some
bartender.
cocktails.
Let's bring a bartender.
Yeah.
in.
Oh my gosh, that would be absolutely great.
All right, so let's do that with a bartender next time. But yeah, can I trouble you to pour me?
Yeah.
those?
Okay.
So
Lenny is the owner of Maria's.
yeah.
And they wanted to do something. So I got a phone call.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, the guy at Maria's, he's a really good guy. He wants to do, and this is like some inside baseball, he loves Weller. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't do a pick that, tastes like Weller. So one of the gentlemen that was there in the bourbon group actually brought a bottle of Weller in, and we tasted them side by side. And I've done this numerous times with the Maker's Cask and the Weller.
Okay.
I am definitely biased, but even in a blind, the Maker's Cask won hands down with the whole group.
Okay.
So we kind of started over and figured out what we wanted to do, and they could not decide on. They came down to two. I think we did 7 or 8 different iterations, and some people really liked the toasted caramel pecan, which we named later, and some people really, really liked the buttery flaky crust. And Lenny came up with this fantastic idea. He's like, let's do both and let's try them together. So he's so smart. It's such a great story because you try them separate and there's only one stave difference. Very, very different. And they're different components of a pecan pie. Oh. And then you add them so you buy both, add them together, another completely different whiskey. So you basically...
Oh, so you actually blend... Oh, my God.
Crazy.
He's a marketing genius.
He really is. We should hire him.
That's evil. That is evil genius.
Different
Mucho
level.
applause.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And I will say...
I'm smelling different stuff already.
It's crazy. It absolutely crazy. And my husband, so I'm the drinker in the house. My husband will, have his Stella or his Corona, and that's about it. And he likes tequila. Stella! Right. I think we do that every once in a while. But
I think I woke my wife up.
Way to go, Matt.
Are you okay? Like, yes, babe,
Yeah,
I'm okay.
Yes.
He absolutely loves these. These are his favorite. He gets on his work calls and he tells people he's like, this is what my wife does for a living. And they'll have virtual happy hours, but these are 2 of his favorites.
Wow. Okay. The
Totally different, right?
The toasted caramel pecan. That pecan there. The toasted caramel. Sweeter.
Yeah.
On my nose.
Super caramely. Yeah. Baked sugar, butter. Really, really rich.
But the name was deceiving. Well, buttery flake. I was almost expecting a sweeter out of the butter in my head just from the name. Mm-hmm. Just a little richer on the nose on the buttery one. Is there one I should taste first?
Whichever one you want.
Are they coming in? What are the proofs? 55.25 and 55.7.
Yep.
So 110, 111.
Yeah, these were right next to each other, aged, matured at the same time.
So yeah, nearly the same proof.
Yep.
That one's 1 better. 11. 111.
It's 1 better.
All right, I'm going with
I can
first.
get 5-minute abs in 4 minutes.
This is what I got to put up with all the time.
Is it one of those grill things that you just like strap on? Have you seen those? And
little spray paint.
Yeah,
The
just gives you
stencil
the
and
abs.
spray paint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that would work with me. It would be a little.
That's
awkward.
there's a lot of taste in the pecan though.
Yeah, you get a lot more roasted notes.
Ooh, the nut is like really late.
Yeah, coffee.
I was like nutty, but okay.
Super. Yeah, it's super nutty.
Late.
Now, what kind of nut are we talking about? Are we talking about like hazelnuts? Are we talking about walnuts, pecans? Like,
Ooh.
Is it toasted? Is it
Come on,
raw?
Jamie. What do you got, buddy?
Yeah, darker walnuts. Yep. But it's late, and it's like in the mid back. It's not in the back, but it's not up front.
It's like 3/4 of the way on your tongue.
3/4. That would be it. Not quite up front, not in the back. 3/4.
Right there in that spot.
Man.
Greta, thank you. Oh my God,
gosh, this is
we're
fun.
not done yet. But you're being so gracious, and we're like prattling on for like forever here, and
No, that's what it's about. I think.
Okay, so Greta, honestly, a just taste maybe lasts for 25 to 30 minutes. You've kept us enthralled with your knowledge for almost an hour and a half. So
Wow.
I cannot tell you how amazing it is for your time to sit with us and kind of walk us through Maker's Mark and all the variations of what is going on. And your knowledge is just astonishing.
yeah, that's impressive.
Thank you. I feel like I learn new things every day. I always like to be the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah. Well, and even someone, just like, oh, it tastes like this to me, and you're like, oh,
Okay.
Because I get probably, like you said, being a diplomat. I mean, probably a lot of your job is coaching people to a good decision. Because a barrel, whatever it is not cheap.
No, it's a big investment.
It's a big investment.
Yeah, I want you to be happy with it.
And and they gotta either they gotta sell it. They gotta move it. You gotta move it in their restaurant bar, or they gotta move it off their shelves. You don't want somebody stuck with something. So all the little things that we've been saying, you might pick up new, quirky little.
It's all about perspective.
Absolutely. So
this was a lot sweeter tasting than it smelled. The buttery, flaky crust. Pardon. There was a lot. There was the because butter isn't really sweet, but I guess that the crusty part of it, the buttery, crusty part, because crusts are sweet.
So when I smell this, it smells drier to me.
Yeah.
It smells, so when we're talking about...
Smells like a crust.
It does. It smells like a crust that came out of the oven. Sometimes something smells doughy, like you just rolled out a pie crust and it isn't quite baked yet. This smells like it just came out of the oven. So it's dry, it's flaky, all those things that connote a little bit of dryness, but it tastes very, very different.
This smells like this tastes, right? So you get the smell here is reminiscent. It's not the same, but it's reminiscent of this taste. Not the same though.
Totally
and
not.
then I got to go back to the taste on this one.
Now, did you save any of the pecan, or am I going to have to give you more? Because you're going to have to put them together.
No, I'm on the pecan.
Okay.
I killed the butter. I killed the butter. That was a lighter pour on the butter.
Yeah.
It was, I swear. All right, just a drop.
All right, so you need more of the butter, right?
This is stronger. This is the pecan, the caramel pecan.
It's a lot more robust, for sure.
It's it's a lot more strength in it. All right, so now I add them together.
Yep.
I'm making pie. Matthew, look, I just made a pie. 3.14.
Was that Billy Madison? Which Adam
No,
Sandler movie
I'm,
was
get,
no
I'm
idea.
getting an Uber on the phone right now.
Oh, holy shiitake mushrooms! All right. Yeah, that changed up
Jamie
the
starts
nose of
making
it.
pie. He starts cooking. Yeah, look out.
Foosball. All right.
All right.
This is so it keeps that heavier. It kept the heavier nose. Mm-hmm. Kept the much heavier nose.
But again, now it's a brand new whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
What you got, Jamie? Wow.
I'm getting that I'm back to the closer to the 46 and the cotton candy. not cotton candy, but that candy, that sugar.
Confectionery sugar, like the powdered sugar.
But I wasn't getting out of either. That's the powdered sugar that you sprinkle on top of the pie before you serve it, is coming in when you put those two together. For me, I'm getting that sugar, not sugary, but that sugar, that powdered sugar.
Like if you walk into a really nice bakery and you kind of just have that smell because it's in the air.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This combined, I could do a couple of glasses of that with a cigar, a light wrapper cigar.
Ooh.
Sounds
Couple
good.
glasses of that. That would be the evening.
That's where Tony might come in to kind of help us down that path.
Do a couple cigars on those too.
Yeah.
That's it. So we have a couple shows planned for you, Greta.
Oh,
we have one with our bartender friend.
Yep.
And then we'll do another with a cigar friend. And we'll do up some cigars. So ponder that. What do we want to do? 46 or we want to do cask on a cigar pairing?
Tony is getting a 46 cask in. That's going to be his barrel. So he did 10 staves of 46. So it's going to come in as cask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
And what's fun to do with that, as an ex-bartender, and it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart for the rest of my life, pairing the whiskeys and bitters and cigars. And making these bourbons into really, really fantastic old fashions is so much fun to just work with cigars.
I think we got our girl on tap for exactly that. Tara loves her bitters. She got me into, because most recipes call for like 3 dashes. Mm-hmm. She always goes like 6 to 8.
Oh yeah,
9.
yeah. It's like bartender salt and pepper.
Yeah, it is because we've done it and we had cocktails in here and it's like when I make cocktails at home they're just never quite. I follow the freaking recipes and they're never quite right. And then she did one in here and it was just like the one she served me, when we were at Jay's Speakeasy or the Detroiter or wherever she was. And I'm like, what's the difference? She goes, well, I go heavy on the bitters. She goes, I go, and that's the thing about when a mixologist is really important. When it comes to that stuff.
Well, it's like a little Italian grandma, right?
Yeah.
So they always want to feed
right.
you.
Yeah.
But some of them aren't.
Yeah.
But they measure things with love. They know things instinctually. And different years behind the bar, you're going to know, and certain bitters go really well with certain whiskeys and bourbons, and they don't go well in other cocktails or with other bourbons. Same thing with simple syrups. People are like, oh, simple syrup, whatever. You can make simple syrup with any base that you want. It doesn't have to be water. And you can do so many fantastic things.
She does. Wow. And she had this tea infused one. Mm-hmm. We were doing some stuff with some Joe Louis bourbon and she did some coffee infused stuff and she's done some really cool stuff for us and we're gonna tag her in on some makers.
Oh, that sounds so much fun.
Cocktails.
Absolutely.
Smoked. Here's what I want to do. I thought Matt, you and I would do this one alone, but maybe we'll bring Tara in. I want to, because it's like at the bars you'll get this smoke infused cocktail where they smoke them, and they have. And then a lot of bars have like these crazy contraptions, these massive
boxes,
and you gotta know that there's like just a simpler one you can get on the eBay. Pretty easy and quick. To smoke your cocktail. So I want to see if we can find one of those that's like reasonably priced, Matt, that we can.
What's your price range? Like a smoking gun is fantastic.
Okay, I don't know.
So chefs use it. It's started by chefs. So if you want to smoke something
to
really
do the brulees,
if you want to smoke something tiny like some scallops or something, so it has like just a little intake valve. You put your chips in there, whatever flavor chips you want to put in there. You light it, and then there's a little hose that comes off, and you smoke it. But what's really fun to do, you make your cocktail in a bottle, like a 750.
Yeah.
You smoke the bottle, you put the lid back on, and you just shake it for 15, 20 seconds, and you have a smoked cocktail, and you can batch it that way. And then it does it. I mean, you can still do some really cool things.
We did a tasting for a bourbon at the Butter Run because you work with a guy. What's his name again? Bob?
Dave
Dave at the Butter Run. He's awesome too, man. The selection of the Butter Run.
It's it's crazy and fantastic.
But here's the thing, Dave has got some stuff.
Yeah,
he's got some stuff upstairs. I got to go upstairs twice.
Well, you are a lucky, lucky man.
I've
Because
been
he has a fantastic collection, and he's
so giving.
Yes, he's such a hospitable host. Like, he understands the industry so well. Like, try this. Let's share it.
Yeah,
That's
he's
what it's about.
amazing. So, but we did a tasting for it was 3-quart bourbon. Neil Garado's, bourbon, and we did a tasting in like the private room upstairs. We had I don't know, 25, 30 people from the Michigan Bourbon Club, and but we brought a bartender in, which turned into a total craziness. But she had this big pan, and she had like chips. And just so you would put in like the barbecue grill chips, and she like had one of those little toaster guns, and she like burnt them all up, and then she was putting glasses upside down on them because she was making cocktails for 30 people. Right. So she was trying to smoke 30 cocktails. She was killing it, and so it was crazy. And I'm like, man, there's got to be like a way that you could do that at home. There's probably some little cool little contraption somewhere. And that was one of my goals for this year, is to do like a fun, attainable smoked cocktail at home where, one, you're not setting off your smoke detector, or Alexa isn't turning on the sprinklers on you. Alexis, turn off the damn sprinklers. What are you, nuts?
That happened for my grandmother's 100th birthday party. We lit all the candles, and at this point, we were in Erie, and she was at St. Mary's home. The firemen came. The whole place shut down, and my grandmother, who...
Was it the firemen? It was like, did somebody start a fire? Bow, chicka, bow, bow, bow. No, not those kind of firemen.
Well, my grandmother, who was 100, she was like, "Ooh."
Any fireman's about chicka, bow, bow at that point.
She was so excited. She's like, "Who brought the entertainment?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're 100 years old," but gives me hope.
That's it. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, Greta. My God.
Greta, we have so much in store for you. 2021 is going to be an amazing year with you.
No, this is great.
You.
This is so much fun.
Thank you. If Matt was here, it just
we'll have
the
to
party wouldn't end. Honestly,
that's that super generous. Super thank you, Matthew.
Yes, sir.
You, sir, have a parting gift.
I bring presents.
I do.
You do.
Aw.
You do. You have yourself a Maker's Mark to go.
Aw.
Look at that.
Oh, look at that. Thank you.
It's I actually, Matt, you ain't got shit. I got 2. Show up next time, mofo.
Asshole.
I love it.
Thank you so much. This was super kind. This is how the Man Cave Happy Hour started.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was cranky AF, and my wife was like, it was September, October, and she's like, we know dinner, we take a walk after dinner. Mm-hmm. She's like, "You're wound up." I'm like, "School." She's like, "Get a cocktail, get a cigar,
calm your ass down.
We're going on a walk."
Yeah.
She put the leash on me. No, she didn't put the leash on me. That's Saturdays. But so she's like, "We're going on a walk."
No.
Oh my gosh.
It was leather.
So I get a cocktail.
That was my next
Pulled
question.
them along.
She's like, "You're pretty wound up," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is school. It makes me crazy." She's like, "Well, what makes you happy?" And I'm like, "Bourbon," and drinking. And I go, yeah, I had this kind of a side idea. I kind of wanted to do a show because I like bourbons, but, and Matt and I are doing this podcasty stuff. I kind of want to do a bourbon thing where we learn about bourbons and cigars. And she's like, "Oh, that sounds kind of neat." She goes, "Do it." And I'm like, "All right, where'd my wife go?"
Did she have a couple cocktails?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She had a glass of wine with her. So we're walking our neighborhood with wines and bourbons and a cigar. We're those people.
Perfect afternoon.
And the dog, And so it was, and she's like, "Do that." And I'm like, all right. And I call Matt. I'm like, "Hey, Matt." He's like, "What?" I'm like, "I want to do a show." I go, "It's going to call Man. It's going to be called Man Cave Happy Hour." He's like, "What'd you say?"
Man Cave Happy Hour.
He's like, "I'm in." I was like, "I'm going to do it." He had no idea, no idea, and I had no idea what it was going to be. But that's how it kind of started. I was like, we did a cocktail on the road, and so when you pulled those out earlier, I was like, "Oh, that's how it started."
Rabbit holes. You follow those rabbit holes,
Yep.
You never really know where they're going to go.
Well, that was it, and then we shaped things and did things. But thank you for being here and the lovely parting gifts.
You're welcome.
And
thank you for having me.
This was fun. I don't want it to end.
Greta, it's not the last time we're going to have you in the man cave.
Yeah.
We're going to have you here multiple times.
So we're going to do cool stuff. Greta was talking about.
I promise I won't look like this. I will be in person in the flesh.
But part of what you do
right
is like you do reach out for bartenders too, right?
Yeah,
and so we're going to do something cool with bartenders and connect them with good thinking and
I honestly would love to do like hikes. That would be fantastic because it gets you in a different frame of mind. We kind of need that. And you said that you like it, and you never know what you're going to come up with when you're walking out and having a bourbon.
Excellent. All right. So Makers, is there a website for Makers? Is there
makersmark.com?
That's easy enough.
Yep.
And then you can like
MAKERS.
Like Sean did earlier, you can go there and become an ambassador and you get a cool little Christmas present.
Mm-hmm. Dude, he heard, he did, and here he is, an ambassador just like that. And we're going to enjoy a barrel at one point in time.
So that'll be cool. Man Cave Happy Hour, mancavehappyhour.com on all the socials. Same thing. If you're listening to this and you got this far, God love you. And leave a comment, like, subscribe. My mom isn't even listening anymore. It's, But like, subscribe, leave a comment. Appreciate you. Matt Fox, I appreciate you more than you would know.
Jamie, my wife is in the next room, and she's not listening anymore either. So if you stuck with us the entire time, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Till next time.
Greta, see ya.
Cheers.
Farewell. Appreciate it.
Cheers.